I think sometimes, I'm not saying all companies, but some companies may create these values and mission statements or purpose statements on the wall. First of all, because of trends, that's what every other company should do.
Yes.
Like if you look or Google how to set up a company, you will read that you need to have your mission statement, value statement, company culture statement. So you could be doing it because it's supposed to be done.
Yes.
It's part of the process. But then what does that actually mean for your people? What does it mean, first of all, from the leader and the founder themselves? Because, for example, when I created the company cultures, it's something that I embodied. The company values that I created, I embody them. I believe in them. And I believe those are the things that will drive our service or our customers to continue buying from us. Then we need to recruit people who embody those values. So you'll be asking those like open-ended questions, for example, like, can you tell me a time maybe one of our companies spoke to you and how did that look like in your life? So when the person gives you that particular story, you can see if they can be able to connect those values that you have with your actual values. So when you're hiring based on value, based on culture. Because again, we can train on skills, but we can't really change people's attitudes.
You're right. Welcome to the Voice of CX Africa, where Africa speaks and the world listens. Stephen Kagame is my name, and I'm joined by my co-host,
Laura Minde, your certified hospitality trainer.
And today, we are having a conversation that you might find interesting. But before I go right into this conversation, here is a sobering reality that McKinsey found about organizations. 70% of customer experience transformations fail. Not because of technology, not because of your good strategy, but because of internal misalignment. Harvard Business Review further buttresses that reality with us by saying that companies with highly engaged employees have 147% high chances of outperforming their competitors in earnings per share. But here's something you need to pick. Only 15% of employees world over feel truly engaged in their workplaces. So our conversation today is basically about communication. In what way is communication affecting our customer experience scores in our day-to-day business activities? So I'm joined with Laura today, and it's an amazing thing, Laura, to have this conversation with you once again.
Yes.
How are you feeling?
I'm excited as always. Excuse me. I'm excited as always to be with you on the Voice of CX. I think we share quite a lot of insights for our audience, which we hope they find useful. So it's yet another day, communication. Let's do it.
Yeah, communication.
Yes.
I think it's one of the things that people talk about much of the time.
Yes.
But I think we don't quite understand the weight of what communication can do in terms of, results in your company, in your day-to-day relationships. So today we want to connect the dots.
Yes.
Of how communication, how we communicate, and how that affects our customer experiences.
Right.
Laura, I'm sure you've dealt with different organizations, worked in different countries in East Africa. So to break the ice for us, I would love to understand, in moments where you've had customer experiences, where you've experienced certain brands,
Yes.
what is that one thing that comes out clearly for you when you noticed a break in the experience? And how does that inform the internal perspective of that organization?
Right.
Just give me a picture of how that looks like.
Wow, that's a very loaded question. But to answer it, for me, what informs me that there is misalignment or a breakdown or barriers in internal culture, the first thing is the first impressions. When I arrive at any organization, I usually observe. I'm very observant. Well, maybe because of my background in hospitality, mystery shopping, audit. So you are paid to actually observe when the service gaps. So for me, naturally, when I go to any establishment, I observe what's happening. And the first thing that I observe is the person who comes to interact with me, either it's the manager or the front desk or whoever it is, how do they interact with me? And we talked about first impression, and this could be just even from their facial expression, from as simple as a smile, because a smile can communicate that I'm ready to serve you, that I'm open to serve you. So the person, the way they approach me, their facial expressions tells already a story. Then when they open their mouths, the first keywords that come out, does it sound that they are service-oriented, or does it sound that they're individualistic? Because somebody can communicate to you and already start saying that, oh, I'm not the person who's in charge of this. Let me call the person who's in charge for this. That already tells a story. Or the way the tone of voice, you know?
The tone.
The tone of voice can really affect how you receive a business. Yesterday, I went somewhere to receive a certain service, and the way the person received me, they told me, why are you here during lunch hours? Just that question starting with why already tells a story about their service mindset. That when they see a customer, it's almost like a frustration to them, like, you are here to disturb me, you're here to annoy me, rather than, oh, wow, you're here. How can I help you? How can I serve you? So this person did not acknowledge why I was there. They did not ask why I was there. They did not tell me the next steps why I was there. So this, for me, it's already a breakdown in communication and a breakdown in internal culture. What do you think? I want to hear your thoughts as well. What informs you that a company has broken communication or broken culture or silos?
Yes. So, Laura, you've actually given me a very typical example of where everything just gets messed up.
Yeah.
We love to say that everything rises and falls on leadership.
Right.
The person you met at that counter probably is influenced by an internal culture they also do not know.
Yes.
Firstly, one thing I've learned about culture is informed by the experiences we have over time.
Exactly.
For you to develop a behavior, it's based off of the experiences you've had, either with a brand, either interacting with family, either interacting. So it's built into your system by how over time you've started acclimatizing to it or getting acquainted to it.
Right.
So when you talked about how that gave you a picture of how things are happening internally, it takes me back to when this person was hired to sit in that position. What is the picture they gave them about how they contribute to the bigger vision of the organization?
Right.
Because much of the time, because we are not clear on how an employee contributes to the bigger vision,
Yes.
even the way they express themselves before the customer is unbecoming.
Yes, true.
So, Laura, for me, just getting back to your question of how that would look like, for me, looking at the internal organizational culture, it is built from the people that sit up to architect how this organization is going to be running. From the time I'm hired, do I have a clarity of the vision of this organization?
Right.
If I have a clarity of the vision of this organization, what are their values? How do they communicate? Because if I'm acquainted with how the organization communicates, Laura, honestly, you're going to see consistency at every touch point you interact with that brand. Because if at all you just met one person and then gave you a picture,
Yes.
that means it won't be a shocker if you met another person doing the same thing.
Exactly.
So meaning it has been entrenched into how they do things.
Right.
So the first thing I look at is that as a leader, if I'm a business leader, how am I able to deliver consistent customer experiences by creating a cohesive communication culture?
Yes.
How do we communicate?
Yes.
If a customer comes to me in hours that they're not supposed to come, how am I supposed to approach them?
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's all boiling down to what happens in the boardroom and how that trickles down to the different managers that lead these teams.
Yes.
So meaning the question that I think I would ask in this particular case, I know it's still conversational for us, is, Laura, we have leaders
Yes.
that are in organizations, and there are different types of organizational culture. Recently, I was reading, and they told us there are 4 types of organizational cultures.
Tell me more.
So it was amazing. It was, an eye-opening, lesson for me. I noticed that we have the clan-oriented organizational cultures, which are very family-oriented. These kind of cultures gravitate towards the family perspective of doing things.
Right.
There's so much teamwork. In other words, when you get into that organization, what the security person does is definitely the same thing as the CEO would do if they were in that position.
Okay.
So they are built around trust. They're built around, working together to fulfill a common goal.
Okay.
Those are the clan-oriented cultures.
Okay.
Then we have the adhocracy-oriented cultures. Adhocracy is basically about creating a bit of autonomy.
Yes.
If you've seen many startups, they don't have a lot of bureaucracy.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
internally, everyone has ownership.
Okay.
So what defines those cultures, adhocracy culture, is there's agility in how things are done.
Okay.
You can easily, you take responsibility of everything you're doing. And no one is there to micromanage you.
Okay.
That's the second culture. Then we have the market-oriented culture. The market-oriented culture is pretty much about getting competitive. When you're competitive, that means that you're looking to having the biggest market share in your space or industry. So when someone is hired, they're telling them targets. We need to make sure we have a bigger part of that pie.
Okay.
Then we have the fourth one is, you need to remember it very well. So there's market-oriented, and then we have the hierarchical organizational structures or cultures.
Yeah.
Hierarchical is those ones that for me to resolve an issue, it needs to go through 40 years. So the escalation rates are really high for those kinds of organization. And I feel those give me a picture. And they were saying that how can you make sure that you can have a bit of all those four facets of culture helping you achieve what you have to achieve in terms of building a sustainable business.
Right.
So now, what my question is, after breaking down these cultures, Laura.
Well, I learned something new today. I didn't know about all those 4 types of cultures, but thank you.
Yes. So which culture would you gravitate towards of those 4 that I've mentioned? And how does that then affect the person at the end of the spectrum, which is the customer? Because we have the clan-oriented, we have the market-oriented, adhocracy, and the hierarchical. Hierarchical is basically you have to make sure you send me an email, copy me in to make sure that I approve that decision you're making.
Yeah.
So there's no autonomy.
Right.
So which one would work well in helping us achieve last mile experiences for our customers or guests, if you will?
I mean, I think you already answered it, because you need to have a little bit of everything. You can't have one over the other because, again, it defeats the purpose. So I think you need to have a little bit of everything. Where authority needs to be put, then authority needs to be put. Where we need to have a family kind of setting, then we need to have that clan kind of setting. So I think a little bit of everything, because, again, service is what we do every day. Service is what we choose to tolerate in any particular company. So if you choose to tolerate that there is silos, then that is your culture. But if you choose to communicate openly, not only about just work-related issues, sometimes you also need to go a little bit deeper to get to understand your employees better.
Yes.
Because customer experience starts from the internal team. And the only way you can be able to understand your internal team is to have open communication. Now, I understand there's also culture play
I love
here.
that. Repeat that.
I
Because
don't even know
it's
what
very
I said,
important.
Kagame. My mind is
open
always...
communication. I'm trying to understand you from the point of the audience also not missing out on that. So open communication, just tell me more about it.
Yes. So basically when I'm talking about open communication is that there's one thing to be too open, and there's another thing to allow room for somebody to get to know you. So when we are working with each other, we work almost the whole entire year with our co-workers, probably even more than we are with our families.
That's true.
So we need to get to know them. We need to get to know who we are dealing with. We need to get to know their circumstances, their situation, because not every day is the same. Some days I may come my full self, some days I may not. And it depends on maybe other factors that affected how I showed up at work that day. So if you get to know me, then you'll understand maybe it was because of, I don't know, I had a sick child, or I had a sick parent, or I had a sick husband.
Yes.
Then you get to empathize with that person's performance for that particular day. However, if we don't have communication, a little bit of transparency. I'm not saying that you should lay out all your cards on the table, but you should have a little bit of transparency with each other, especially as leaders, because we need to show that we are also vulnerable. We're not these perfect humans who get it right all the time. No, sometimes we make mistakes, and we need to show that vulnerability to our staff by communicating, listen, I also make mistakes, and I apologize for making those mistakes. So if we start creating that culture where we have open conversation with our staff that I am only human, I also make mistakes, and I'm asking you to also forgive me. It's not only one way that the leaders are the ones forgiving the junior staff. The junior staff can also forgive the leaders if only they communicated what went wrong. Right? So I think that goes into the authoritative kind of communication that don't question me, I am the leader. But what I'm saying is that you can question your leader to understand also where they're coming from. Why did they make that particular decision? Why do we have to shift from this way of doing things to that way of doing things? Because if I don't ask you questions, then I'll not know why we're doing what we're doing. And we'll go to the transactional, robotic kind of person that, okay, my boss said that we need the target of this much. And then that ruins the service experience because people start chasing money. They stop caring about humanity.
That's true.
And then that becomes very transactional. I remember years ago, one person came to me crying and they were begging me to buy their products from their company. And I asked them, why? Why do you want me so badly to buy these products? Like, because my boss gave me a target and I'm falling behind target. And now I'm just basically asking friends and relatives to buy. Whether I wanted that product or not, she didn't care. She simply wanted to make a transaction to meet those targets. So what does that mean now? You're given an authority, you have a target. I stop being human, I stop creating experiences, I start being transactional, and I start hustling customers, calling them, telling them to buy. I don't even know if you want to buy, I don't even care if you want to buy, I just need you to buy. Why? And she was very blunt to say, I need you to buy because I'm behind sales target, and if I don't meet this sales target, I'll be fired. Straight up, I'll be fired. And of course, as humans, you're like, okay, I feel sorry, I don't want you to get fired, so I'll purchase whatever you want to sell me, but do I need it? No. So that really ruins the customer experience.
You're right.
Because of how we communicate internally with each other.
That's powerful.
Yeah.
Laura, you talked about culture, and honestly, getting to a context level, there's a way we are wired in Africa. And I don't want to say it's a stereotype or it's a mindset that we need to break, but it all is ingrained in how we are nurtured, our society,
Yeah, true.
where you do not answer someone above. They call them the big man up there. So you've talked about that experience where I have to hit a target, but that is going to cause me to compromise on how I communicate with customers.
Exactly.
I'm going to impose whatever they don't need so I can just tick off a box.
Yes.
Culture is very important, Laura. And looking at our African context, are we empowered enough to be able to ask questions or to confront our leaders? I mean, in a very respectable manner, yes, but as well get our end of the bargain as well.
Yeah, true.
Because you realize that we are much of a time one dimension. If they tell me go, I go.
True.
And Laura, I've seen that about you. You're more expressive, if you will. You know your rights and you're going to stand up for your rights. And we have very many people that work for organizations, but they cannot really stand up for their rights.
Yes.
Because their life literally is dependent on that paycheck.
Right.
So they're going to have to compromise just to fit into an organization that doesn't quite give them the right environment to be what they want to be.
Right.
They're just surviving. How do we break that? How do we break that? Because I feel like it's systemic, and therefore the employees suffer because of the systemic gaps that we have.
You're right. And, you say that you admire the way I talk and I assert myself. I wasn't always like this. I grew up like also any other typical family, African family, where I couldn't speak up to my father. My father was very authoritative. Whatever he said, you do it. You do not question. If you're crying, he asks you, why are you crying? And if you want to explain yourself, why are you explaining yourself? Wow. So there was no right way of doing anything. So, of course, I grew up like any other person that I couldn't ask questions, even in school, that this thing is so ingrained in us that from our family, our parents don't allow us to ask questions. We're not allowed to sit at the table to share opinions. Who are you? After all, you're just a child. What do you have to share with adults? So you learn to shut up. You go to your school. When the teacher is asking question, how many people raise their hands? Only those few people who are labeled a certain way for raising a hand.
Yes.
So if you want to be like everybody else, you don't ask any question. So whatever the teacher said, it goes. Whatever answers they give, you write on your notebook, and hopefully in the exam, you write exactly what they taught you. If you are asked to justify why, you don't know why. So this is already in your childhood. You go on into your teenage years. I don't know, you're told not to ask questions. Why are you asking questions? You're so nosy. And then you are now in the workplace where you're finding a toxic boss. You're trying to understand where they're coming from. You want to ask them questions, but you're afraid because if you ask, you labeled what? What do they label us if you ask questions?
You are wiseacre.
Exactly. You are nosy, you are arrogant, you are rude. So we have labeled asking questions to arrogance. We have labeled asking questions to being rude, but we haven't spoken the reality that I just simply want to understand where you're coming from.
Yes.
And if it's from a customer's perspective, I just simply want to understand your needs so I can be able to serve you better. And when we're talking about customers, we're talking about internal customers and external customers. If my boss asks me questions, then they'll be able to understand me and how they can be able to get me engaged. We talked about engagement. How can you get me engaged and motivated if you don't know what drives me? If you don't know what inspires me,
Yes.
how would you know? So the only way is to have that open communication by engaging with your employees and allowing also your employees to be able to ask questions to authority, meaning their managers, supervisors. Why are we suddenly shifting from, I don't know, plating like this? Can I understand why? So you are given the reason why. What is the implication of that? What is it going to do for our business? Because if I understand the bigger picture, then I can be able to play along. But if I don't understand the bigger picture, then I become robotic.
You're right.
And systematic.
You're right.
And transactional. I will do it, yes, because I need that paycheck, but I don't understand why. So we definitely need to build that culture. And for me personally, it took years to get out of the shell. It's like you're almost in a safe zone in a shell. So we need to get out of that shell and dare to start asking questions. Like, start slowly. Start asking your spouse, your family members. Just ask them questions. Go deeper. Like, there's the 7 whys that we are taught to ask. So why is your head hurting? When was the last time you drank water? Why is it recurring? Just keep digging until you find the root cause of what the issue may be. So yeah, it took me years, but eventually these days I tend to ask quite a few questions. And I'm not really afraid because I simply just want to get to know you better, understand you better, serve you better. And maybe be a better mom, be a better wife, be a better friend, just by asking questions.
Asking questions.
Just asking questions.
And some people find that offensive.
Imagine.
Especially because they're still kind of boxed in the culture that we grew up in.
Yeah.
Laura, you talked about open communication. And I think that's like the one highlight I get to pick out of your conversations. When we get into organizations, I've noticed we have different, boards that are put up with, we are nimble, we are accountable,
Yeah.
customer is first here, we treat everyone with empathy. But then when you interact with the service that they're offering, you realize that they do not embody what they talk about.
Yeah.
So I like to tell people that culture is not what people put on boards,
Very
on their
true.
vision boards, on their walls, that this is what we are, this is what we represent. But it's supposed to be seen in the interactions that I get to have with the people internally.
Yeah.
How does an organization create a culture that speaks for itself before someone has to read about their core beliefs and values? Because I've noticed communication really is very important. How do they communicate that to, for example, if at all I'm a waiter, going to the hospitality industry, how do I understand my part in trying to embody this whole value system? And also, how am I contributing to the bigger vision? Because we talked about orientation, most of these things in our previous episodes.
Yes.
But I feel like all these things are on paper, Laura.
Yes.
And we are not seeing
practically.
these policies are available, but we don't see them quite embraced by people internally, which I
Yes.
believe is a communication gap.
Yes.
What is it that companies are doing wrong, and what is it that they're overseeing? They're overlooking, yet it's biting them at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think sometimes, I'm not saying all companies, but some companies may create these values and
Yes.
mission statements or purpose statements on the wall. First of all, because of trends, that's what every other company should do.
Yes.
Like if you look at or Google how to set up a company, you will read that you need to have your mission statement, value statement, company culture statement. So you could be doing it because it's supposed to be done.
Yes.
It's part of the process. But then what does that actually mean for your people? What does it mean, first of all, from the leader and the founder themselves? Because, for example, when I created the company cultures, it's something that I embodied. The company values that I created, I embody them. I believe in them. And I believe those are the things that will drive our service or our customers to continue buying from us. Then we need to recruit people who embody those values. So you'll be asking those like open-ended questions. For example, like, can you tell me a time maybe one of our companies spoke to you, and how did that look like in your life? So when the person gives you that particular story, you can see if they can be able to connect those values that you have with your actual values. So when you're hiring based on value, based on culture. Because again, we can train on skills, but we can't really change people's attitudes.
You're right.
So attitude starts with also the values that they stand for. So you hire for the right values, the right culture, the right attitudes. Then we can be able to train from there. Now, once you've got your people on board, it doesn't end there, because that's where it ends. Like we gave them the value statement, they signed, we put it somewhere in the file, it's end of story. No, it means that they need to live by it now every day, because culture is built by the daily habits that we talked about. So if I expect my people to be service-oriented, that service orientation needs to start internally. If I'm going to get a cup of tea for myself, I would ask my other colleagues, would you like a cup of tea as well? Because for me, that speaks like it's service, that I wouldn't just go get my own cup of tea. What about everybody else? Why did I not ask everybody else? So you start observing in the daily habits of the interactions of the team. If you see a gap, you note it, and then you have a training, or you have a team meeting or huddle sessions to discuss, this is the gaps that I saw, and this to me doesn't speak service orientation. If we're not able to serve each other, how will we serve a guest who comes from outside? Will we really offer that cup of tea or coffee? So we start with practical applications inside. And then, of course, there's reinforcement. Like, for example, in the morning meetings that we have, we always talk about what does it mean when we say it's service culture, for us to remind ourselves, because we're human beings. So we also forget sometimes what we stand for sometimes. So if you're not constantly reminded, it wouldn't stick. So you remind each other. We talk about what does it look like, because you need to demonstrate to somebody, what does that look like in practice? Because there's one thing that we can talk about it in theory, but what does it look like in practice? So we give examples of what that looks like in practice.
Yes.
We have to have reflection sessions like, okay, are we actually embodying what we just spoke? No. Where do we need to work on? So it's a continuous process for us to develop that culture that we want. It doesn't build itself. It happens proactively, and it takes time.
It does take time.
It will take a lot of time. And if you give up on that culture that you want, then guess what? You will form a culture from the lowest standard that you have in your company that's going to be replicated, because it's easy.
Very.
It's easy. So everybody's going to copy the easy bad habits that you didn't want in the first place, and that becomes your culture. And then, of course, it's too late now. We can't change everybody. We start saying, oh, we need a change management program.
Exactly.
Because we allowed it to happen.
Exactly.
So every time you see something wrong, you need to call it off. Communicate. Like, listen, Kagame, the way you spoke to that client and the way you approached them, I felt that it affected maybe an A, B, C, D. Perhaps next time do A, B, C, D. So we shouldn't shy away or close our eyes on things that are not speaking to our service culture. We should call them out, and call them out quickly, and fix it.
That's very powerful. Laura, that's astounding. How you've put it, I think, pretty much clears the ground for many of the things that we are yet to talk about. So, Laura, I like the fact that you pointed out once you let it flow through the crevices, it's going to bite you in the long run.
Exactly.
So, and I like the fact that you also brought in the part of change management, because our companies are evolving every other day. And that evolution starts internally before it's now trickles to how we operate with our external stakeholders. So change is a process, and it does take time. And you've talked about, coming up with practical ways of making these things work. Because our culture is in our daily habits.
Exactly.
In whichever department I'm in, I need to know what this means.
Yes.
As an accountant, I need to know what this means. As a as a front desk officer, I need to know what this means as a marketer. And I think that brings alignment to all the things that we are talking about, the vision, the mission, the core values, the things that bring us together.
Right.
So in a place of dynamism where we're having a lot of changes, how do companies adapt internally? For example, in the age where many companies are laying off their staff because of AI, it's affecting a lot, both, emotionally, psychologically, people are struggling.
Yes.
How do companies take in that shock internally? How do they communicate change that, what, this is what is happening. This is the reality. We saw that in COVID.
Yes.
Actually, COVID gave us a clear example of what a disruption can do.
Yes.
How do I make sure that I'm not being selfish in a situation that is affecting all of us? Because I think one of the hardest things that business leaders go through is terminating contracts.
Yes.
Suspending people. It's really hard, especially if it's brought about by macroeconomic factors.
Yeah.
So how do we manage change internally, Laura, and how do we communicate it? Because I think the gap is in how we communicate it.
Yes.
How does that happen? I know you've touched a bit of that, but you might want to go deeper into how does that happen? How do we take it in?
Change is very difficult, like you said. Even us talking about asking questions, until you get to that level of really proactively asking questions, it's going to take you time. It's like building a muscle. You need to go to the gym every other day to be able to build that muscle. So the same way with the change in our organization culture, we need to build that muscles to be able to reach our goals. So when it comes to communicating difficult information or situations, I think first we would need to have the buy-in of the leaders of the company.
Yes.
Who understand exactly, maybe you can have a small group of people who you talk to them about the situation, they comprehend this situation, and then them now is to get other advocates, like the employees who you feel like the closest will be able to translate that information to the others to accept it in a palatable way.
Yes.
So you need to have those advocates who are also going to discern or to spread this information to the rest of the team. So it's the buy-in from the leader. Then you have those ambassadors who are going to be able to communicate this to the same. And in every organization, there's a few people who will refuse, they're resistant. So you definitely need to identify who are these people who are resistant to change and why they're resistant to change. So that means you need to have that dialogue. That why is it that they're so resistant? For example, if you have to retrench a whole entire team,
you're right.
Certainly there are people who will not agree to this particular situation. But
if you have a given.
But if you have a conversation with them and you get to understand where they're coming from, where you're coming from, where can we meet halfway, then you reach a mutual ground and agree, then you can happen. But again, probably 70% of them will buy into whatever change that you want, but they need to understand your why first.
Yes.
They need to understand the reason behind, they need to understand the implication of it, the impact in terms of their day-to-day operations, in terms of their customers' experiences. They need to understand that. Then, of course, those people who are very resistant, now you can decide if they don't want to buy in and you've educated and you've done what you have to do, you decide what next.
What's that? What next?
You decide.
It's always hard. Yeah. And I know looking at any behavior change journey that you get on, one thing I've noticed is we are categorized into different groups. There is such a thing as a diffusion of innovation. Mm-hmm. When you're bringing change, there's people that are going to be innovative. Innovators are literally what they want to jump on the change.
Exactly, yeah.
Then we have the early adopters.
Yes, exactly.
They're curious. They want to try out what you're trying to bring.
Exactly.
Then we have the early majority. These are the people that are waiting for the early adopter and the innovator to try out this new thing that has just come.
Then we go. Exactly.
The same applies to the late majority. And then the laggards are the ones that are like,
skeptical.
We are skeptical. We don't want to even try it out. So it's just something I just felt like I wanted to add to your conversation.
And it does add very well to exactly what I was saying. It's exactly what you're saying, just more in technical words.
Yes. So I think everyone approaches change differently.
Yeah.
And I think it all ties to our personalities, our past experiences.
Exactly.
They normally say that, when you don't change will actually change you.
Exactly. Yeah. If it's like a vortex, when it's going around and around, if you don't adopt early, it'll come and sweep you anyway.
It will.
Like COVID, it just comes and takes
will.
over your business anyway. Like
will.
AI will take over your business anyway. So
AI
you
is
either
here.
jump in or you get sucked in.
I know. And I think that's the most, disturbing experience. Right now, we are looking at AI as, okay, these guys are doing their things, but I don't think it will catch up on us. But we've seen many organizations already adapting to it.
Yeah.
It's become now even incorporated into programs at universities and everything, because it's a reality right now.
It's a reality, and we need to
jump onto the wagon.
Well, not to everything. I mean, I always say, assess the situation. So jump into whatever you feel
Yes.
is needed for your business or for
Yes.
your situation. Jump in. I would say learn. Learning is very important.
Yes.
Like we constantly have to learn, because you need to understand the advantages and the disadvantages
Yes.
into all these AI things, because some of them are just disruptive, So you need to know, what are you getting yourself into? I see, for example, right now, there's a lot of deep fakes online.
That's true.
And a country like Australia now, they are banning social media for children because there's so much deep fake that you can't even distinguish what's real and what's not real anymore.
right.
So there's that ethical element about the use of AI as well. So you, as a person who's learned and understands the implication of these things, then you need to know, what are the consequences of using these particular tools? How would it affect other people, and especially the children and the younger generation?
That's for sure.
Yeah.
That's for sure. So we find ourselves in that bubble. But again, how do we carry ourselves in this, process of change? And you say it's something very important, that we need to keep abreast of what's happening, keep learning, keep updating ourselves with what's going on, and then make judgment and be like, okay, yes, is this good for me, or this is not good for me?
Exactly.
That's something very important.
Yeah.
Because I think you can throw yourself into it and end up being depressed.
Yes, you end up getting in more problems than you
More
thought.
problems than you thought.
Yeah.
So you have to have the guardrails to keep you,
Exactly.
sane.
Always observe what's happening.
Yeah.
And what are the implications of it?
Yeah.
And do you really think it's necessary for your life right now?
Yeah.
Is it something you can maybe avoid, or for now?
Yes.
So, yeah.
So Laura, and as we bring our conversation to a close, there's things that I felt like we needed to touch, and that's concerning mentorship in organizations. There's cultures that do not empower their staff as much as they should. They do it, but they do it on a superficial level. Yet these are the staff that get to interact with customers on a daily basis. What is it that company culture, what about company culture affects how we deal with our customers at the end of the day? What is it that companies can do to improve their cultures, that that employees find belonging, they find that they are growing along this journey of company growth, to not feel like they are more transactional? Like the example you gave me, I really have to hit the target. This person doesn't care. My boss just doesn't care. I need to hit the target, hook or crook.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, this person is compromised in terms of how they have to work.
Yeah.
So how do we empower staff to be able to deliver exceptional experiences to the customers? Now that we've talked about the internal bit, now we want to graduate towards the external bit, the customer experiences. That involves a lot of communication.
Yes.
What is it that companies can do to empower their staff?
So in terms of service culture, there's a lot of things we could talk about service culture, but I wanted to just specifically focus on communication.
Yes.
So when it comes to internal communication, the number one, it starts with how we communicate with each other.
Yeah.
Do we give room to listen to each other? Because one of the things that I notice is that internally, we tend to be very dismissive with each other. If your colleague is coming to ask you about a certain order for a certain client, you're like, oh, you figure it out on your own. But then what does this mean to the end user? Because if you're dismissing me and I'm leaving your desk with partial information, then that means the end user, which is our customer, is going to get partial service.
You're right.
So that means we need to be able to give each other time. Let's be patient with each other. Let's allow room for each other as employees to ask each other's questions. To give each other briefings. if you know, for example, specific details about specific customers, share that information with all the team members.
Yeah.
Don't keep that information for yourself. For example, the hotels, they collect a lot of information from customers. They know their birthdays, they know their allergies, they know different things, their preferences, all kinds of things. But you will find sometimes this information is just for the front desk department. The housekeeper doesn't know. The waiter doesn't know. The kitchen doesn't know. And then what happens? There's a service gap. That the customer probably is allergic to something like onions, but the waiter who was going to serve them didn't even mention that, Mr. Kagame, I understand you're allergic to onions, to show that I hear you, I see you, I get you. So this, if we don't have proper internal communication, if we don't empower each other to speak loudly, to speak clearly, to ask questions, to be curious, then we're creating a culture where we're having just sheeps and no shepherds. So we're all just sheep following whatever direction. If one jumps, we all jump. We don't know why they jump, but we jump because everybody else is doing. And that's what you hear, that, oh, we're doing this because everyone else is doing it. But why is everyone else doing it? Nobody dared to ask. It's just the thing around here.
So there's no curiosity.
There's no curiosity. So we need to have that curiosity, like, why are we doing this every day? We cannot be those people saying that, oh, it's just the way it is. What do you mean it's just the way it is?
That's how we do things here.
It's not how it, why? We need to understand, why are we doing the things the way we do here? Why do we accept abusive bosses? Why do we accept a boss coming to scream at you using a terrible language? I don't even know what to say. Terrible language to you. Why do we accept that? Because imagine that the person who has just been screamed at and yelled at by the boss is now the person who has to go receive the guest with a smile. Do you think that really is going to happen? No, then it's not going to happen, because of how I also feel. I'm a human being. So I don't feel at a good place right now to serve somebody else. So I will try to either force it with a fake smile, and the customer will feel it, that I'm not genuine, that I'm not present, that I'm not listening to them, because indeed I am not, because of how I was treated internally. So, yeah, train each other,
Yes.
communicate with each other, treat each other fairly, care for each other.
Yes.
Not only the person who's paying you, care for
You're
also
right.
internally, care
Yes.
for each other. Because ultimately you're spending more days with each other than anybody else,
Than anybody
with anyone
else.
else. Yeah.
And I think that takes me to the clan-oriented culture,
Yeah.
the family culture of,
Yeah.
we need to work together, we need to empower each other. If someone is going off, you need to, in a respectable manner, bring them back.
Exactly.
Because you're all working towards one clear mission to make the customer have the greatest experience. So there's another thing that I think I might want to also share with our audience. It's something I learned recently about how companies are supposed to communicate internally. It's a model called WADO. WADO is WADEL. And they talk about how meetings are conducted in organizations. Much of the time it's the boss will come and tell you whatever they have to say, but they don't get to have dialogue with you,
Exactly.
the
yeah.
team. And you talked about open communication. So it talks about the W being welcome, like you welcome the team and thank them for making time to come for the meeting. And then the A is ask questions. Much of the time we begin on a very serious note.
Yes.
Because sometimes you have an agenda, you're like, I want to tell you this. But maybe there's feedback these teams have for you
Yes.
before you go ahead with your agenda.
Yes.
So as a leader, you ask questions. Like, is there anything you feel like we need to talk about before I share the agenda? And then you now get down to the dialogue, like the D. Now let's talk about this. You share with them what exactly you want to share with them, but with an intent that they should be able to give you their feedback.
Yeah.
Then the E is empowering them, giving them the tools to be able to deal with customers in the way they should deal with customers.
Yes.
And then the L is launching them, and launching them literally comes with a motivation story. Like you talked about the sales guy. Like, how do you deal with rejections? Tell a story about something that probably worked for you before,
Yeah.
that someone can take on as they're
Yeah.
dealing with customers. That takes away the boundaries that we form in meetings. Because even as you share your agendas and everything, you want to make sure that whatever I'm sharing, everyone has taken it. But we have a unidirectional way of doing things, Laura, and I've noticed that's killing a lot of employee morale, employee engagement. We talked about how companies that have highly engaged employees actually achieve 147% in terms of revenue and share
and
the
what
pie.
you said there is asking questions in the wider formulated asking question. I think for me it's very critical because without asking questions then you don't understand. And like you said, in the morning meetings, we come in a meeting, I don't have any question, then I'm saying, oh, the team is not creative. Did you give them a chance to actually share their ideas?
They didn't.
Did you ask them questions? Because there are questions that you can ask that allows the person to be able to speak freely and not yes or no questions. Like allow a dialogue. Tell me more about that, Kagame. What do you think we should have done on this particular situation? Rather than coming and imposing your own ideas, ask the employees their questions. Let them come up with the solutions. And of course, when you go back to communication, it's also how you receive that feedback.
Exactly.
Because feedback is very important. Sometimes we hear things that don't speak to what we were thinking or maybe crushes our own ego. So how do you receive that feedback? Because that also plays into effective communication. So for me, I'd say active listening, asking questions is very important. Clarifying understanding, because sometimes we try to clarify understanding with our colleagues and then they tell us things like, oh, if you don't understand, then it's your problem. Like, it's not my problem. It's the entire organization problem. If I asked you to clarify and you refused, it's a whole organization problem. It's not my problem. So we need to see the ripple effect that just because of one person's action, what does that mean to the entire organization?
Yeah. I mean, Laura, this again is really fully packed. I like the fact that you further emphasized the part of asking questions, because that's the part where we fall short much of the time. And we are left in the ambiguities of working with people. You don't know what I'm feeling. You don't know what I think about you. And you're literally just telling me, do this.
Exactly.
And when I fall short in the results, you're going to say, why did you do it? That you didn't ask me how I felt about it. And that's the example you gave us of someone who's literally going out to get sales, but they can't talk to their boss and tell them, you know what, the market is tight. I think, let me go about, tell me how I can go about this.
I like that. You know, probably it's the market is tight. Tell me.
Exactly.
Tell me how I can go about this.
Yes.
Or maybe it's not even the market is tight. Maybe the resources that I'm supposed to have to be able to do this, meet this target is not there.
I know.
So you're expecting unrealistic results based on a weak foundation.
So Laura, it's really been a great conversation. And what I pick out of this is that, your culture is your communication. And your communication is your customer experience. These dots connected together eventually add up to how you make a customer feel at the end of the day.
Yes.
What is it that you want our audience to live with today?
I would say communication is like the nervous system of your organization. So we need to ensure that we have effective communication internally for our staff to be able to deliver external care. Because if that is broken, then it's also broken to the customer outside.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Anything else, Laura?
Yes, Kagame. Don't think you're getting away without the rapid fire.
Oh yeah, let's dive into it.
So Kagame, last time you put me on the spot. So this time, you're on the spot. So tell me, Kagame, how do you normally start your day?
I don't want to sound cliche, but I start my day much of the time with a prayer of gratitude, thanking God for allowing me to see another day. And then I read the Bible. It's more like that, my manual for life. That's like a practice I've built for years now. And then recently I adopted a habit of doing a bit of jogging.
Yes.
So like I do a 30-minute jog around my neighborhood.
Yes.
And then rush to the shower, get myself ready for work, and I'm up and running.
Wow.
With a breakfast and out.
Wow.
Go to work, yes.
Thank you so much for sharing that, because not a lot of people always admit to God and prayers and the Bible. And I thank you for telling us that you normally start your day with a prayer and reading the Bible. Thank you.
That sets my day into motion.
So we all go through a lot of stressed moments, sometimes anxiety. How do you manage this kind of hard days? When you are anxious, you have stress, sometimes, I don't know, maybe depression. How do you handle that?
Well, I think for me, I speak to people. I love speaking to people. if I'm the kind of person who, if you put me in a place where I do not have access to people, you literally cripple me. So for me, the only way I can really deal with those hard days is I have someone to talk to. It could be a family member, family friend, or just a friend, people that I confide in, the ones that I define as confidants. I just share because I feel like when I share more, it lifts off. But if I keep it to myself, it just compounds and makes my life very hard. So I never go to bed without dealing with it.
Wow.
Yeah, I just talk over it.
I like it that you share
Yes.
with a trusted family, because
Exactly.
some people might think, if I share and then BBC,
Exactly.
suddenly it's on CNN. So we share with trusted family
Exactly.
members.
That's what I do much of the time.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, the last question. If you were to change something in service experience, what would be the one thing that you would choose to focus on?
If I were to change anything in service experience, what would be the one thing that I would focus on? Passion. And I think that's what defines me as an individual. I feel like if you are not passionate about something, however good you are technically, you're going to break it. You're going to mess it up. So I would now go down to the part of hiring. Like, how do I hire? Who exactly do I need on my team? Because that's like the root cause of everything we are seeing out here. We have the wrong people doing the wrong things. And they're there to survive. I would rather judge someone's. I mean, the exercises people do to just gauge and see, okay, is this person really up to the challenge? Can they withstand bad customers? Or they call them, difficult customers.
Yes.
Because they are going to represent your brand everywhere they will interact with the customer. So you want to judge and see how far can they go. So for me, passion is everything. Yeah.
Wow, I like it. Passion.
Yes.
Get the right people on the bus and they will take you to the right destination.
That's for sure.
Wow.
That's for sure.
Well, thank you so much, Kagame. As we wrap up this session, I throw the ball back at you to close this for us.
Yeah, so Laura, thanks for that very powerful rapid fire session. So today we've talked about how communication affects our customer experiences. And just to give us a brief of the things that we've talked about internal company culture and how that affects how employees deal with customers. If your employees don't feel valued, it's the same results that your customers are going to experience. And just to remind you, if your employees are not highly engaged, don't expect the same thing with you. Don't expect a different result with your customers. So let's focus on delivering exceptional customer experiences and creating cultures that empower our staff, empower employees to deliver last mile experiences. And this brings us to the end of our very beautiful conversation with Kagame Stephen, your co-host, with
Laura Minde, your certified hospitality trainer and co-host.
Let's keep doing amazing things for our customers. Let's keep empowering our staff, and that will be the game changer in our businesses. See you in our next podcast. Bye for now.